There's a type of person who reads every book about running, but never ties their shoes. They have the playlist ready, the shoes bought, the route mapped. They just never go. And here's the disturbing part. Their brain genuinely believes they're making progress. Today I want to show you exactly why that happens, and how one ordinary woman accidentally broke the cycle in the most unexpected way. Chapter 1. The Illusion of Readiness. Researchers at the University of Chicago ran a study that most productivity gurus quietly ignore. They gave two groups of people a goal: learn a new skill. One group was told to plan extensively before starting. The other group was told to begin immediately, mistakes and all. 3 weeks later, the group that planned longer felt more confident. But the group that started immediately had actually learned more. Here's what the researchers called it: preparation addiction, the psychological comfort of getting ready without ever getting going. And you might be living inside it right now without knowing. Chapter 2. Meet Sarah. Sarah was a high school teacher in her mid-30s. Organized. Thoughtful. Someone her colleagues called the most prepared person in the room. She had a folder on her laptop labeled Novel, Draft 1. Inside it, 0 words. Just a folder full of other folders. Character sheets. Research articles. Aesthetic inspiration boards. A playlist titled Writing Mood. She'd been building that folder for 4 years. Every summer she'd say, "This is the year." Every September, the school year would swallow her again, and the folder would sit there, perfectly organized, completely empty. But Sarah didn't see herself as someone who never finished things. She saw herself as someone who cared too much to do it badly. That distinction matters. We'll come back to it. Chapter 3. The Brain's Dirty Trick. Here's something neuroscience actually confirms. When you talk about a goal, or plan it in detail, your brain releases a small amount of dopamine. The same chemical it releases when you actually accomplish something. Dr. Peter Gallwitzer, a psychologist at NYU, called this symbolic self-completion. Your brain essentially checks a box that hasn't been checked yet. So every time Sarah opened her novel folder, organized her character notes, or told a friend, "I'm working on a book," her brain rewarded her. Not for writing, for intending to write. The cruel irony? The more detailed her plans became, the less urgency she felt to act on them. Planning had become the product. Chapter 4. The Accident That Changed Everything. The shift didn't come from a motivational speech. It didn't come from a new journal or a productivity app. It came from a power outage. One evening in March, Sarah's internet went down. Her carefully curated research tabs, gone. Her mood playlist, unavailable. Her inspiration boards, unreachable. So she opened a plain document. No formatting. No folder structure. And she wrote 2 paragraphs. They were rough. One sentence didn't make grammatical sense. A character's name changed halfway through. But they existed. In the real world. On an actual page. She closed the laptop and went to bed. But something was different the next morning. She opened the document before making coffee. Not because she was disciplined. Because she was curious about what came next. That curiosity, that small, unpretentious 2-paragraph spark, did what 4 years of preparation never could. Chapter 5. Why imperfect action is technically superior. Let's get specific about why this works psychologically. When you take even a small imperfect action, your brain creates what psychologists call an open loop. An unfinished task that your mind keeps returning to, searching for closure. You felt this. You start a TV series, and suddenly you're thinking about it in the shower. That's the same mechanism. Preparation closes loops before they open. It simulates completion. Action opens loops. And open loops create momentum. Sarah's 2 rough paragraphs created an open loop her brain couldn't ignore. Suddenly her novel wasn't an abstract future project. It was a thing with sentences in it. A thing that had started. And started things have a strange gravitational pull. Chapter 6. The Month That Followed. Sarah didn't quit her job. She didn't wake up at 5 a.m. She didn't follow a rigid writing schedule. She just kept that document open on her desktop. Visible. Accessible. Some days, she added a paragraph on her lunch break. Some evenings, she rewrote a scene she didn't like. Some weeks, she barely touched it. But she never reorganized a folder. She never rebuilt a character sheet. Those tools had served their purpose. They were scaffolding, and she'd finally stopped living inside the scaffolding. For months later, she had 22,000 words. Not a finished novel. Not a polished manuscript. But something that had never existed before. something that required a different version of her to create. Her colleagues noticed a change before she did. Not because she talked about writing more, she actually talked about it less. They noticed because she seemed quieter in a settled way, like a person who had somewhere to return to. Chapter 7. What preparation addiction actually protects you from. Here's the uncomfortable part. The part most motivational content won't say out loud. Preparation isn't just procrastination wearing a costume. It's protection. When your novel is still in the planning stage, it can still be perfect. When your business is still an idea, it can still be revolutionary. When you haven't started, you haven't failed. Action strips that protection away. And that's terrifying. Sarah admitted this later. Her 4 years of preparation weren't laziness. They were self-preservation. As long as the book was unwritten, she was still a person who could write a great book. Starting meant risking becoming someone who wrote a mediocre one. But here's what she didn't understand then. A mediocre book that exists is infinitely more useful to her, to readers, to her growth, than a perfect book that doesn't. Existence beats quality, every time, at the beginning. Chapter 8. The principle that transfers to everything. This isn't really about writing. It's about the gym routine you've been designing for 3 months. The difficult conversation you've been mentally rehearsing for 6. The career change you've been researching since last year. Every domain has its own version of the empty folder with the perfect name. And the research is consistent. The people who achieve meaningful things over time aren't the best planners. They're the best adjusters. They start with imperfect information, collect real feedback, and change course. Planning gives you 0 real feedback. Only action does. The map is not the territory. Your plan is not the project. Your vision is not the result. At some point, and that point is always sooner than it feels, you have to close the folder and open a blank page. Chapter 9. How to break the cycle starting today. So what does this actually look like in practice? Not a complete overhaul. Not a dramatic declaration. Those are just more preparation with better lighting. Here's what works. Find the smallest, irreversible action. Not the first step of your plan. The first action that creates something that didn't exist before. 2 paragraphs. 1 phone call made. A single item built, cooked, coded, or said. Irreversible matters. Thinking about calling someone is reversible. Dialing is not. Remove the performance. Sarah's breakthrough happened when no one was watching. When the internet was down and her inspiration boards were gone. The moment you stop performing readiness for an audience, including yourself, something shifts. Tolerate the rough draft version of yourself. Your first attempt will be clumsy. That's not a problem to solve before starting. It's the natural texture of beginning. Every person you admire for their craft has a body of embarrassing early work they rarely mention. Skill is not a prerequisite for starting. It's a product of starting. Closing, the real cost of waiting. Sarah finished her novel 14 months after that power outage. It wasn't the novel she'd planned for 4 years. It was smaller, stranger, more personal. 3 agents rejected it. 1 didn't. She's now editing her 2nd book. What strikes her most, looking back, isn't the accomplishment. It's the 4 years before it, the precise, loving, meticulous maintenance of an empty folder. She can't get those 4 years back. But she stops short of calling them wasted, because she needed to see what preparation addiction looked like from the inside. She needed to recognize it in herself before she could leave it. Maybe you're seeing it in yourself right now. Not as a character flaw, not as laziness, but as a very understandable fear of the blank page, dressed up in highlights and sticky notes and labeled folders. The blank page is not the enemy. It's the beginning. And beginning, messy, uncertain, slightly embarrassing beginning, is the only thing that has ever actually built anything. You don't need a better plan. You have enough information already. Open something. Write 2 paragraphs. Make 1 call. Cook 1 meal for 3 people. Not the whole thing. Just the first real thing. Then see what your brain does with an open loop.